Marriage is supposed to be a bond built on trust, respect, and love. That's what I believed when Ella and I exchanged vows 7 years ago. I never imagined that I would one day find myself questioning everything I had once held so certain, caught in the heartache of betrayal. But life has a way of throwing unexpected challenges at you, and 2 years ago, my world shifted in a way I couldn't have anticipated. Ella, my wife, came to me with a confession that shattered the life we had built together. She told me she had cheated on me with a coworker. It wasn't a long, drawn-out admission. It came all at once, like a wave crashing down on my chest. I still remember the way her voice trembled, the way her eyes looked at me, filled with what I thought was genuine remorse. I had always considered cheating a hard line, a deal breaker. I had imagined that if this ever happened, there would be no second chances. And yet, when the time came to make that decision, I didn't follow through in the way I had imagined. At the time of her confession, I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. Cheating, to me, was not just a mistake. It was a breach of the fundamental trust that held our relationship together. We had been married for 5 years, but had been together for 7. In my mind, we were rock-solid partners who knew each other's hearts intimately, people who would never hurt each other in such a deep and cutting way. But hearing Ella's words, something in me broke. I was angry, of course. I felt the surge of fury that anyone might in that situation, and I immediately thought, "It's over. We're getting a divorce." But as the days passed after her confession, I didn't immediately file for divorce. There were things that complicated my decision, factors that made me rethink whether leaving was the right move. Ella, for one, didn't have to confess. She had done it voluntarily, without being caught. She hadn't left clues for me to discover, and I didn't catch her in a lie. She simply came to me and told me what had happened. That had to mean something, right? She wasn't trying to deceive me any longer, and that counted for something. It wasn't like she was a serial cheater either. She claimed it happened only once, at a housewarming party. I vividly remember that night. Ella didn't come home until 4 a.m., which was unusual for her. She's not a drinker, but when she does drink, she occasionally gives in to peer pressure, so I was worried. I texted her several times to check if she was okay, offering to pick her up. When she finally got home, she seemed distant, but I chalked it up to her being exhausted from staying out too late. Little did I know, it was that very night that the betrayal occurred. When she confessed, she immediately quit her job. It wasn't something I asked her to do, and in fact, I discouraged it. I was already set on the idea of divorcing her, and I didn't want her unemployment to become a financial burden on me during the divorce process. But Ella insisted that quitting her job was her way of proving she was serious about making amends. She wanted to hold herself accountable and show that she was prepared to set better boundaries in her life. It was a bold move that further complicated my feelings. Another factor that gnawed at me was my own past. When I was 19, I had cheated on my then-girlfriend. It was a drunken kiss, something that happened at a party when I was younger and dumber. I had never been proud of it, but my girlfriend at the time forgave me, and we moved on from it. I couldn't help but think, am I being a hypocrite by refusing to forgive Ella when I was forgiven for something similar? Of course, what Ella did was far worse. This wasn't just a kiss. It was full-on intercourse. But part of me still felt that I would be judged for not offering the same mercy that had once been extended to me. So, against my instincts, I chose to forgive Ella. I believed that people could change. That remorse was genuine if the person was willing to make sacrifices to prove it. In the end, I told her that I wouldn't divorce her on one condition: she had to sign a post-nup agreement that would protect me if she ever cheated again. The post-nup wasn't overly harsh, at least in my opinion. It affirmed that our premarital assets would remain separate in the event of a divorce, and it included an infidelity clause that stipulated the cheater would forfeit any claims to the house, the car, and alimony. The balance of assets would also be split 60/40 in favor of the cheated spouse, rather than the typical 50/50 split. Ella agreed enthusiastically. We both had independent legal advice when the agreement was drafted and signed, and I thought it was a fair way to ensure that if I ever got burned again, I wouldn't be left picking up the pieces alone. For 2 years, we moved on, or at least I thought we had. Ella seemed genuinely committed to making things right, and I slowly began to trust her again. We rebuilt the foundations of our marriage, piece by piece. I wouldn't say that I forgot about the affair. It still haunted me in quiet moments, but I had chosen to forgive and move forward. Then, last month, everything came crashing down again. I received a message on Facebook from a woman named Alice, someone I didn't know. She introduced herself as the wife of Bill, Ella's co-worker and affair partner. My stomach dropped as I read her words. Alice explained that she had discovered the affair after catching her husband cheating again and going through his devices. She found messages and evidence of their relationship. Ella's betrayal had resurfaced in a way I never expected. At first, I didn't know how to respond. I told Alice that I already knew about the affair, and we had reconciled. But what she said next changed everything. Alice told me that Ella and Bill hadn't just slept together once, like Ella had claimed. According to Alice, they had been involved in a physical affair for 5 months. 5 months? I couldn't believe what I was reading. This wasn't just a single mistake made in a moment of weakness. It was a sustained, deliberate betrayal over the course of nearly half a year. When I asked Alice if she meant an emotional affair, she clarified that it was a full-on physical relationship, and they had slept together more than 10 times. The more I thought about it, the more my blood boiled. This wasn't just a drunken one-night stand like Ella had led me to believe. It was a prolonged affair, filled with planning, deception, and repeated choices to betray me. The image I had of my wife, the woman I had worked so hard to forgive, was crumbling before my eyes. I couldn't just sit on this information, so I confronted Ella that weekend. I asked her directly if what Alice had told me was true, and after a long silence, she admitted it. She confirmed that her affair with Bill had lasted 5 months and that they had slept together multiple times. I felt like a fool. For 2 years, I had lived under the belief that Ella had made a single mistake, one that we could move past. But this was something entirely different. When I asked her why she didn't tell me the full truth from the beginning, she said that she didn't think I would have forgiven her if I had known. Her confession, which I had believed was an act of true remorse, suddenly felt like another form of deception. She hadn't come clean out of respect for me. She had told me just enough to protect herself and salvage our marriage. The truth she withheld wasn't out of kindness, but out of a fear that I would leave her if I knew how deep the betrayal truly went. Now, I'm left questioning everything. Ella is arguing that it doesn't matter whether it happened once or 10 times, that the past is the past, and we've made progress in our marriage. She insists that her confession was genuine, and that her actions since have proven her commitment to me. But I can't help but feel like this new information changes everything. In my mind, the omission of the full truth is just as damaging as never confessing at all. She gave me a version of the story that allowed me to forgive her and stay, but she didn't give me the whole truth. I made my decision based on a lie, or at the very least, a half-truth. And now that I know the full scope of the betrayal, I'm reconsidering whether I can stay in this marriage. Ella is pleading with me to move past this and continue rebuilding what we've worked on. But I don't know if I can. I don't know if I want to. The post-nup is there, and I could file for divorce and come out of it with everything in my favor. But is that the right thing to do after 2 years of reconciliation? So now I'm left wondering, for changing my mind about forgiving my wife after she signed a post-nup in my favor. Or was my forgiveness invalid because it was based on a lie?